nggak mesti nunggu 20 tahun, nggak mesti nunggu 30 tahun, enggak. 2019, kalau kita bisa rebut secara konstitusional, maka tahun 2020 syariat Islam sudah bisa jalan di Indonesia. Karena ingat, sistem perundang-undangan di Indonesia yang buat adalah DPR RI. Kalau kursi umat Islam yang kur syariat 60%, atau kita katakan bisa 2/3, apalagi, maka kalau ada hukum potong tangan pencuri, umpamanya diusulkan, didiskusikan, berdebat, deadlock, maka akan ada taswid, akan ada voting. Voting, kalau kita pegang 2/3 kursi yang ada di DPR, kita menang. Kalau menang, berarti hukum hudud akan bisa jalan di kita punya negeri.
Harus kita rubah. Ada 4 perkara arah perubahan kita semua. Pertama adalah rubah prinsip kedaulatan rakyat menjadi kedaulatan di tangan Allah, di tangan syara. Asyadatu li syar'i, artinya adalah tinggalkan seluruh hukum dan sistem jahiliyah dan tegakkan hanya syariat Islam saja. Yang kedua, saudara-saudara sekalian, perubahan yang harus kita lakukan adalah rubah kekuasaan yang saat sekarang ini berada di tangan pemilik modal menjadi murni di tangan kita, di tangan umat. Inilah arah perubahan yang kedua, saudara-saudara. Arah perubahan yang ketiga adalah hancurkan sekat-sekat nasionalisme yang telah memecah belah kita semua. Angkat satu orang khalifah untuk menyatukan umat. Karena itu maka umat akan betul-betul menjadi ummah wahidah. Itulah arah yang ketiga. Dan yang keempat adalah jadikan hak tabani berada di tangan khalifah. Tinggalkan proses penentuan hukum perundang-undangan buatan manusia melalui voting. Tinggalkan. Berikan kewenangan kepada khalifah untuk mengambil salah satu pendapat hukum terkuat di antara pendapat para mujtahid yang telah digali dari sumber-sumber hukum Islam. Inilah 4 perubahan yang harus kita lakukan, dan inilah 4 pilar khilafah. Oleh karena itu, perubahan yang harus kita lakukan adalah perubahan untuk menegakkan khilafah.
Khilafah, khilafah,
saudara-saudara sekalian, tidak mungkin mendirikan khilafah ini sendirian, harus melakukan amal bersama. Saudara-saudara sekalian yang merindukan keridhaan Allah, siapkah saudara-saudara untuk bersama-sama menegakkan syariah dan khilafah?
There is a state which beheads and even crucifies its citizens, where those who question its authority are lashed and locked up for years. A state where women lack many basic rights, patrolled by religious police, where children are indoctrinated, but this is not the Islamic State. This is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. A close ally which buys billions of pounds worth of British arms, whose security forces we equip and train, even though they're in conflict with many of their own people, whose oil we buy and whose royals get the red carpet treatment.
We have a relationship with Saudi Arabia because we receive from them important intelligence and security information that keep us safe.
Working with a team of Saudi undercover cameramen,
Watch this.
this film sets out to penetrate one of the world's most secretive and repressive states.
The women, they're imprisoned. They just fear freedom.
Because of American and European support to the Saudi monarchy, our people have suffered.
And we will uncover how Saudi money and ideology has helped drive terrorism around the world.
I think there's a very real threat that the ideology that comes from there is posing to us. Morally, we need to make a stand. I think that the chickens are coming home to roost on this one.
As Muslims conquered city after city in the name of Allah, they got hold of the books of the people they conquered. This is how Muslims obtained the works of Aristotle, for instance. Muslims gained knowledge by subjugating people who already had it, and with this constant influx of new ideas and new information into their empire, some Muslims did absorb the material and reflect on it, and in many instances develop it even further. But we have to draw a distinction here between Muslims, the people, and Islam, the ideology. Muslims made certain scientific discoveries, but the only connection between these scientific discoveries and Islam is that Islam commanded the conquering that brought science into the Muslim world. If we ask ourselves what scientific discoveries Islam, the ideology, has produced, we get a very short list. In the past 14 centuries, Islam has produced exactly one major scientific breakthrough: time travel. Any society that truly accepts Muhammad's teachings is mysteriously transported back to 7th century Arabia. Why? Because part of the message of Islam is that Allah wants you to live and think and dress like a 7th century Arab. This is what makes time travel possible. The Quran is the flux capacitor in that diabolical DeLorean known as Islam. And if you jump in the passenger seat, you're not going back to 1955, you're going back to 625, when Muhammad was teaching his followers to dunk disease-ridden flies in their food and to drink water from ponds with dead animals floating in them, and to treat their illnesses with camel urine. So there were two forces at work during the golden age of Islam. Through military conquest, Muslims acquired entire libraries of data. And some Muslims and Muslim leaders used this data and even expanded on it. This positive force, the force of rapidly increasing knowledge, carried Muslim civilization a certain distance. But there was also the retrograde force of Islam, constantly calling Muslims back to a 7th century way of thinking. Why did science ultimately wither and die in the Muslim world? Well, since science in the Muslim world depended on conquering advanced cultures, scientific progress was doomed to failure as soon as Islam stopped conquering advanced cultures. Without the positive force of new insights and new research pouring into the empire, Muslims were left with the negative force of Muhammad's intellectually backward anti-scientific teachings. We can see the results all around us. Where is science in the Muslim world? Who goes to Saudi Arabia to learn cosmology? Here's an interesting comparison. Muslims make up around 23% of the world's population, yet well under 0.5% of Nobel laureates in the sciences, physics, chemistry, and medicine, are Muslims. By contrast, Jews make up well under 0.5% of the world's population, yet around 23% of Nobel laureates in the sciences are Jews.
What impact did your era have on the modern world?
Muslims today look around the world and see that their contribution to science is disproportionately small compared to that of other groups, and they're suffering from what can only be called science envy. But instead of looking at the root of their problem, Muhammad's teachings in the Quran and the Hadith, Muslims are busy trying to convince us that our scientific achievements are rooted in Muslim scientific achievements and that the Muslim contribution to science is therefore much larger than it seems.
And remember, spread the word. This is a golden age.
But let's face it, if I ask, apart from terrorist attacks, what has Islamic culture done for the world? And all Muslims can say is, well, 1,000 years ago, guess what? Their little touring museum doesn't have much to do with modern science. What they've got is the Islamic version of Antiques Roadshow. And as I'll demonstrate in my next video, some of the antiques that our Muslim friends and National Geographic and Ben Kingsley brought to the show, they're fakes.